All right, welcome back to Business Today. It's time for Biz Chat to break down those numbers. I'm joined, of course, by Shalino Lalo, who's an economist with Mentoria Economics. And also on the line, we have Dr. Tobias Oluweni, who joins us via phone. And I'm glad to have these two with us. And starting us off is this particular issue of Finance Act, where we've seen the Court of Appeal lift the Finance Act 2023 conservatory order. And Shalin, for a moment there was sort of being between no man's land.
Yeah.
Will this go forward or not, depending on how it impacts you on a personal level and also on a business level? But now that this has been lifted, what is the feeling from an economics point of view? Was this necessary?
I believe that to actually test the justice, the powers of the judiciary, this was necessary, because looking at the constitution of Kenya, which we call it the baby of the country, the rule of law, according to the constitution, needs to be followed. So looking at the process that was involved in actually passing the Finance Act, the issue around public participation, we need to ask ourselves, did it actually happen, or was it just a facade that was there, that some counties actually were involved in giving their opinions on what they know about, what they think about the Finance Act, and how getting to know also how it will affect them. So I believe it was necessary to actually challenge and get to know where are we at, looking at the constitution, and how has that been used in passing the different laws in the country.
Okay. Very, very critical. And I want to bring in Dr. Oluweni in this particular discussion. Now we have a balance where you have a budget for the financial year, and now how you finance it is what has been sort of unlocked in this particular situation. Just listening to the argument, because I'm going through this judgment, where they're saying that Treasury's argument of them needing to raise the 211 billion is critical. So they are losing almost 500 million on a daily basis by failure to implement this Finance Act. From your assessment, how else will the government approach this? Because there is the argument of the Finance Act is very punitive, and it's weighing down on Kenyans who are already being faced by high cost of living. There was sort of that consensus that there might be sort of some relief with this particular process. How does this sit with you, Dr.
I hope I'm audible. The lifting of the act is very critical to state financing, because there wasn't any other alternative that the government would do. As you can see, we have exhausted our debt. Hello?
Yes, I can get you. Proceed.
Yes, our debt ceiling is way up, and the government was not having any other option. So this was very critical for the government to finance the budget, the 3.6 trillion budget. So it was the only option that the government had to finance this budget.
Definitely. And I mean, Shalin, now that issue of balance, because in some quarters, some people felt, oh, this is too punitive. And that is normally how the law is. The government of the day comes up with this proposition on how we're going to finance our budget, and it goes through the processes that it went through. Of course, some people will gain from it, some people won't gain from it. With this lifting, how do we prepare, starting on a personal level? What changes should we be expecting that we should be geared for moving forward?
First of all, we need to brace for impact, first of all. And looking at our, the people who are employed, the taxes that are going to be imposed on their income is going to increase. Looking at there's the housing fund, I think there's the issue around the NSSF that it's going to be increased. So I think we just need to brace for impact and look at your paycheck at the end of the month and try to budget try and budget to see how you can be able to actually brace for impact, and at the same time also look at how you can be able to change with the changing times. Yes.
Okay. Brace for impact.
Yeah.
Dr. Luni, in terms of preparation, because we've seen the 1.5% levy of housing, which is an issue that was contentious with this particular act. How else, especially from the corporate side, how will this impact them? Just a reminder, because I know Kenyans, we've gone through this particular, while it was the bill, we made our suggestions, and by the time it was passing to be an act before the courts intervening, how will the corporates, how should they brace themselves?
As you could see in the act, there is the part that the individuals should play, and there is the part that the corporation will actually play. So that actually means that the corporations are going to use their money, or of course, to fund the same, and that will actually impact on the earnings of the corporations. Most corporations, as you could see, we have just come from the COVID challenges. And when now you have this one on them, on their neck, they will actually find it a bit challenging. So we are likely to see a scenario where the employment is likely to, unemployment is likely to increase, because corporations will actually have to do with what they have. So that's the challenge it presents to the corporate world.
Okay. Right now, I'm going through Honorable Kimani Kurias, that is Member of Parliament Molo, and also the Chair of the Finance and National Planning Committee at the National Assembly, wants this particular, defreezing, if we may put it so, or the order barring the implementation of the Finance Act was lifted. This is what he said, yeah? This means that manufacturing of fertilizer will now be zero rated. Excess duty on electric motorcycles now removed. Rental income tax reduced from 10 to 7.5%. RDL and IDF now reduced. Maize, wheat and cassava flour now zero rated. Reduction on excise duty money transfer, airtime and internet. Zero rating of parts used for the assembling of mobile phones will make Kenya the lead manufacturer of smartphones in Africa. I am elated, quoting Honorable Kimani Kuria. And looking at this Finance Act, because we tend to lean on what is not working for us. Picking those sentiments, Shaleen,
Yes.
He has a good point. Do you think there's something to celebrate and also some positiveness to expect with the actualization of this act?
Yeah, I think there are a few aspects that we can actually celebrate in terms of reducing the internet. Is it the internet fees?
Yes.
Yes. So it's something we need to celebrate, because looking at the businesses, like how the business run these days, most of the businesses that is run using our telephone phones, using the internet. So such things are going to actually help many businesses grow. In terms of fertilizer, is this removing the subsidy?
Yes. So fertilizer, manufacturing of fertilizer will now be zero rated.
Yeah, will now be zero rated. So looking at such things and looking at the current where we are as now as a country, where we had the longest drought period or season, and right now the rains were there. So looking at just trying to improve the agricultural sector. This is a very good. It's a very good amendment.
Okay.
Yes.
Definitely. So there's always two sides.
Yeah, two sides to it. Yeah.
Dr. Luni, right now we are dealing with the International Monetary Fund, actually looking at the Finance Act 2023 was highly driven by the conditions of the IMF. And looking, because we've gone through the fifth review together, going through that particular document and listening to Treasury, some of the points that they have raised towards the IMF, what stood out to you in regards to what Treasury is doing, and will that be for the good of the country?
The IMF is very critical to developing countries, especially in terms of financial support and also restoring economic stability and growth. When you look at their reviews, they normally do thorough economic evaluation when presenting that review, so that they can actually eliminate domestic factors and also external aspects that could actually affect an economy. So looking at that review, it's actually a way of trying to resuscitate the economy. So the Treasury, in responding to the same, is actually taking the right direction. The only challenge is that it might affect the ordinary person, the requirements of IMF, the tightening of economic conditions might affect the ordinary person and their dependents also.
Okay. Shalin, in fact, while we were talking, before we came for this interview, we were looking at the EABL performance and the reduction of profits, reduction of uptake of their products in a way. And you're saying that you're foreseeing rates being tightened further. It seems the way things are going, we can no longer be as bullish as we thought before.
Yeah, for sure. Like looking at EABL, for example, like they've registered, I think, a loss. Yeah. So, and looking at the Finance Act, there's going to be a 15% excise duty on advertisement on alcohol products. So looking at right now, they're already experiencing losses, and then this comes in. It means they're going to have to tighten their balance sheets are going to be in a mess for sure, because if you're going to introduce like the 15% excise duty on tax, it means even when they're approaching the different, maybe the media industry to advertise their products, it means that the revenue that they're going to get from it is going to reduce further. So it's a mess, honestly speaking, it's a mess.
And I mean, Dr. Luni, thinking about that particular situation in terms of, because with excise duty, it seems to be one of those areas that we're seeing Treasury looking at very keenly. They're looking at pockets on where they can extract as much revenue as possible. But there's also the argument on cost management from the government side. Some people have argued that we don't have to run a 3.6 trillion budget. We can reduce our budget and do with less. Is the budget like our edge, where it will never go down for any country? It always have to shoot up? And is there room, especially listening to Treasury talk to IMF, whether they're implementing reforms to sort of reduce the cost of government?
Yes, you see, the budget will always be rising because the numbers keep on rising. The population keep on increasing and the needs keeps on increasing. As far as adjustments and cutting the costs are concerned, it is normally, it's important that the government reviews where they actually put their expenditures, so that expenditure it's only spent on the necessary things, the necessary needs. And of course, that's why we normally talk of austerity measures, so that we can actually cut the coat according to our size, so that we may be having a bigger budget, because of the increasing population and increasing demands, but we cut the quota according to our size in terms of doing austerity measures. So that's the only way to reduce the cost. But they have to be real. You know, sometimes austerity measures can actually be political because you find that we are talking of austerity measure and the other thing is still happening. So we have to be real with the austerity measures that we are taking.
Definitely. And Shalane, looking at the government, one of the weaknesses or, the weaker links has been the SOE, state-owned enterprises. With Treasury now talking to the IMF in regards to what they're doing towards that, of course, top of mind for many Kenyans is the Kenya Power and Lighting Company and the Pride of Africa. Talk about Kenya Airways, they come top of mind in terms of performance. And also for KPLC, we deal with KPLC each and every single day. What are some of the suggestions that we are seeing from Treasury that will help maybe turn these loss-making enterprises, state-owned enterprises, into profitability?
Looking at KPLC, for example, one of the directives that was issued by the IMF was for the board to be okay, yeah, for a shake-up on the board to include the private sector. So one of the measures that I think I've seen the KPLC doing is they're supposed to seed like the transmission, like
the lines.
Yeah, the lines. Yeah, they're going to give that to, I think, a tracker by December 2024. Looking at also ways to sort of improve revenue. They are looking. One of the footprints of IMF is the power prices have been rising, I think, since April, and we are actually bracing for more prices in that sector. And another is the KPLC, I think, is also looking to invest in the internet business because they have the network, they have the network coverage, like in terms of their power lines. The coverage is really great around the country, and at the same time they have the fiber optic capacity. So they're trying to lease this to telecom companies and use that to increase the internet connectivity all around the country, since that the demand of internet has actually increased.
Okay.
So such measures, they're trying to improve it. They're trying to put such measures so that they can be profitable.
Okay.
But the question is, will it really actually make this company profitable, or are there underlying issues that are still key that need to be addressed so that these companies can be profitable? Yeah.
All right. I think there's no better way to put a full stop to this discussion.
Yeah.
And what will happen, time will tell.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
at least that has been communicated.
Yeah.
Olalo Shalim, economist, mentor economics.
Yeah.
And we also have Dr. Tobias Olweni, who's joined us via phone call. We appreciate your input today on Biz Chat. Thank you very much for joining with us for the week on business today, every day between 3 and 4. We appreciate you. Have yourself a blessed weekend. I'm Noah Kipkenboy. Up next, we have the KTN. Stay tuned.